Hello, Pew here. This time I want to show off one of my builds, which is a pet retaliation conjurer. It is something a little more funky, and yes, it's pet retaliation, so it's not you who is retaliating damage, it is actually the pets. Now, let's go into the build immediately. If you just want to skip ahead and check the gear and the skill build, you can click on the link on the video right now. Otherwise, I'm just going to explain the thoughts behind this build first, which is a little bit weird, but hey, it works. So what I wanted to do with this build is just create the most boring thing ever. Since no one likes retaliation, apparently no one likes pets either, so I just combined both of them into this glorious concoction, and it works. It's actually really fun to play. I might be a little biased since I love pets and Conjurer is my favorite class combination, but I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. Now in the background you can see me killing some nemesis monsters. I've completed the game with this character on hardcore, so it is a hardcore viable build. The one thing I didn't test is Crucible since I don't particularly fancy it, but everything else seems to be fairly killable with this build. I don't really have any problems with any monsters, but there's like the spellcasters. Those would be probably the scariest, since you do want your enemies to hit your pets, not cast spells on them. But yeah, like the build is built around several items which boost your retaliation damage, or not your pet's retaliation damage, to rather high numbers once when used together. And I decided to combine it with um, quite a lot of actual pet damage. So it's not just, the retaliation that's doing the damage. Even the ranged monsters who are not affected by retaliation, even they die really fast because your pets themselves hit pretty darn hard. They're not pushovers. And this is why I like this build so much, because even if you actually meet a monster that wouldn't be the perfect matchup for the build, it still dies rather fast, since your pets just tear it apart. And yeah, that's pretty much the theme of the build. Now, yeah, let's just jump into the gear and the skill build itself. Alright, so for the gear, now a lot of this gear is pretty much a must-have, which is kind of a downside for newer players. If you want to try this build, I would suggest to try it only if you have a lot of the pieces lying around. Otherwise, it might be kind of hard to get it to work. But then again, it's also a pet build, and as I said, you don't have to retaliate the damage to actually kill things. It's gonna work either way. It's just that once you really have all the pieces together, you do see that fast attacking enemies just die immediately. And yes, sorry for the mess in the inventory. I am a slob. Okay, so the very important pieces are the Briarthorn bands. You want to get the mythical ones. If not, even the lower tier versions will work, but the mythical ones are really important. Next thing, the Wildshorn Legguards. This, with the Briarthorn bands, provides the biggest bulk of your retaliation damage. Then you will also use the Primal Instinct for even more retaliation. This is one of my favorite relics either way, so I'm glad I could use it in the build. We're also going to be using a Blightstone Invoker for even more retaliation damage. And as you've noticed, all of these items give you flat retaliation damage. That's why they're so important. Uh, the relic, the rings give you flat pierce retaliation, while the pants and the Blightstone Invoker gives you flat poison retaliation. And then we scale all of that. So the other pieces are a lot more flexible, I would say. I still prefer to use the Beast Color set on the Conjurer because it just fits so well, and Briar Thorns are really good for retaliating damage. I'm using a Black Rumar of Ognapesh. This is one of those items that you could probably swap out for pretty much anything. I just decided to go with Ognapesh since it gets me another corpse to throw at my enemies, and it's another minion that distracts my enemies, which is why it's so useful. In the same type of idea, the Heart of the Mountain. Another minion you can have, another minion to distract the enemies and retaliate damage. That's the idea behind the Heart of the Mountain. Again, you could probably switch out for pretty much any other pet neck. Yeah, but I love it. I love it on this build. The Yeti itself does really a lot of work when it comes to even freezing enemies, so you are going to notice that when you play with this build. So yeah, I suggest Heart of the Mountain. Then we have the Overlord's Iron Grip. Now this thing is beastly on Conjurers. This is a must-have in my opinion. It's just probably the best gloves you can get on a Conjurer. So yeah, get them. Mythical or non-mythical version, I don't care. These are awesome. We also use the Fiend Flesh Greaves, mostly for extra Heart of the Wild and just nice bonuses, and the Fiend's Flesh isn't too bad either, since damage absorption is really nice and hardcore. Then we also have the Mythical Voidmancer's Cord. Again, you could use pretty much any belt in this case. I'm using this one for the resistances for my pets. You could use pretty much anything. You could go for something defensive for yourself, but in my opinion, because of the skill build and because of the devotion build, this build is fairly safe and fairly tanky. And as you see, my defensive ability when buffed up is almost 3k already. Then we also have a few procs that go off that boost that even higher. We also have a lot of pets that taunt our opponents and resistances fairly high. We have our physical resistance at 41%, so you are going to be fairly safe. Uh, and now off to the skill build. Alright, so first the occultistry. Very, very standard. Curse maxed out, both vulnerability and frailty. Uh, I probably wouldn't have to max out Curse or Frailty, but I love the movement speed reduction. Um, then Blooded Reek and Aspect of the Guardian, both maxed out. This one is maxed out for the Acid Retaliation, the offensive ability, and the health regen. So all of the stats you and all of your pets actually benefit from. And this one is purely maxed out for the Fizz resistance. I don't really care about the other stats, but they're pretty nice. Still pretty nice to have. As you see, I am using Bloody Pox with Fevered Rage. Again, Bloody Pox, one of my favorite skills. It's just really good at triggering devotions or just spells on attack. It's a really good skill. Fevered Rage, if you're new to hardcore, you probably don't want to use that, but it really works well with the build as long as you know your limits. If you know when and on what you can cast this, you are going to be fine and you're going to be killing things way faster. Then we have the Raven. This is just a 1 point. You put 1 point in everything. I'm maxing Storm Spirit out for the, again, Retaliation. I think you guys see the theme here. And then we max out the Hellhound, 1 point in Hellfire, and a bunch of points into Bonds of Bismil. In the end, Bonds of Bismil kind of became my point dump, where I simply just dumped the rest of my points, and yeah, it worked. Over on the Shaman tree, though, again, we have the 1 point wonders, which is Devouring Swarm and Grasping Vines. Both of these can be used to trigger devotions. Both of these are really good at doing it. Then we have 1 point in Mugdrogan's Pact, maxed out Heart of the Wild. I want to get as much out of this as possible because I'm on hardcore. Same for Oak Skin. Now Oak Skin, again, we do it for the survivability and the retaliation damage. decent skill. You usually don't max it out, but in this case, it's pretty fair. It's pretty nice. Again, Briarthorn, we max this one out. 1 point into Ground Slam, we max out Emboldening Presence. Again, it gives us retaliation, it gives us damage, and it gives us physical resistance. So we want this maxed out. Another thing we max out, Primal Bond. We probably wouldn't have to max this out, but the crit damage is insane, and I just like the skill. It's fairly strong, so I maxed it out. And also 25% less damage from beasts. This includes beasts. I wanted to say Chupacabra, but it doesn't actually include Chupacabra. Uh, Conjure Primal Spirit, great skill. It's insane. As you see, 160k HP. This thing is not gonna die anytime soon, and it rips things apart. This thing is insane. You use it on cooldown almost, or you just save it. In specific cases, you would use Primal Spirit, like let's say against Musi. Against Musi, the Nemesis, you want to wait for his second form before you use Primal Spirit. Just because on certain occasions, Musi tends to freeze everything, and that includes all of your pets. And when all of your pets are frozen, they aren't doing damage. Now, he will still take damage from hitting them, but even with Bloody Pox and Fevered Rage, he's not the fastest attacker, so he would take forever to die. So that's when you save the Primal Spirit for. You pop it, it cannot be frozen, it can kill all of the crystals, and it can kill Musi fast enough. So it's just really good. And then we go over in the Devotion tree. Now, guys, don't be shocked. This Devotion tree has been put together with being unique in mind. Again, it might not be the most optimal. Devotion trees are my weakness, and generally I go for a theme when I build them. So in this devotion tree, the theme is pets are tanking and they're doing retaliation damage. Now let's see what I did. First of all, you are going to notice I didn't really go into like the standard pet devotions. I did pick up the Shepherd's Call because it's just way too cheap to not get, and it's way too strong to not get, and it gives me retaliation damage. The same way I got Wolverine, which is a terrible devotion, but it gives me my pet's retaliation damage. I also picked up the Hound for the same reason. It gives pets a little bit of retaliation damage. But the one thing I wanted the most out of my devotion tree would be this Ishtar, the Spring Maiden. Since I have not seen any builds with it, I decided this is gonna be it. This is what I'm gonna pick up. And boy, is it nice. Again, really nice ability. When you get hit, it does boost your survivability quite a lot. And your pets take over. It's just great. It works especially well because I want my pets to take over. I want them to trigger the taunt and to get attacked a lot. And since I had all these points in yellow and blue devotions, I was like, hey, might as well get Light of Empyrean. Really defensive devotion. The skill itself, really strong. So it's just all around nice. And all the other devotions are defensive. Now, from my experience playing this build, I would say you could go way more offensive with it. But hey, why? You don't have to. Everything dies fast enough. I haven't had any problems with any content yet. The one content I still wish to tackle is Cronley's Nemesis, which shouldn't be a problem. The Ethereal Vanguard Nemesis, which I just hate to look for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will never get the Common's Chosen Nemesis because I am too lazy. But yeah, if you like the sound of the build, I hope you like the footage of me killing a couple of Nemesis bosses as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're also interested in how to play it, you pretty much roll your face on the keyboard, pressing all of the buttons, and that's it. That's how you play the build. Oh, as a little bit of a closing statement, you do want to use these quite frequently and not roll over this one every single time. But for pet attack to be very effective, since we are using Primal Instinct, Swarm Mind, the little swarmlings are fairly slow, so when you're killing bosses who have phases, someone like Musi or like the last boss uh, in the game, or rather in the expansion, you wanna spam your attack to keep the pets on top of the boss. Because of the swarmlings, if they go back to your place, they're going to take forever to get back to the boss, and they do a crap ton of damage. And that's it. That's all about the build. I hope you liked the little showcase, and see you guys next time.